How's that, Ted? How's that, Ted? Any better? Yeah, this next presentation is Paul Maley's presentation on the Southwest Research Institute's funding priorities and how they work and how they're funding us occasionally. Okay, science priority asteroid occultation targets 2014-2015. The background with this, a couple of years ago, the Iota and the Southwest Research Institute established a relationship where the Southwest Research Institute, SWRI, would provide limited funding for North American occultation events. They would select specific occultation targets, and IO's data would be used for specific science investigations that they are doing, particularly where they have known binaries, size and shape model developments. The resulting data is available to the SWRI at the same time as everyone else. In other words, no publication of such data that's obtained with this funding is to be released without coordination and permission by SWRI. What happens is we have a call for observers. It's posted first, and when we respond from these observers, we have multi-station deployments evaluating for funding candidates. Next slide, please. What's posted is a small changeable list of targets identified by SWRI as their research opportunities continue annually. These are for domestic USA occultations only, and that's just currently. It's possible in the future we might go worldwide. These targets are identified as known or suspected binaries, which models are being developed and constructed by SWRI. Next slide. In order to receive potential funding, you must have a minimum of 3 time-inserted video stations. You'll be notified in a certain number of time prior to the event, sometimes closer, and the funding is reimbursable after the event only up to a predefined amount, which may vary from event to event. Typically, the funding's been in the neighborhood of $200, $300, so it's not a great deal of money. Next slide, please. Southwest Research Institute will decide which observers get funded. If there's fewer dollars in observers, they will make the final determination of an event if it receives any funding. Once you make a commitment, you'll be contacted, and if you refuse, the next observer in the sequence will be notified. So if there's 10 people that are on the list, and one person has to drop out for one reason or another, these things happen, then the next person takes over. Funding levels and methods for observer selection will evolve, but likely will be at a fixed amount per observer, say $200. And this is allowable expenses based on with receipts only. In other words, you just can't say you went to have a steak dinner and don't produce a receipt. Okay, next slide. The known risks to receiving funding include the obvious weather risks, unexpected factors could cause the event to be canceled. The expense are not reimbursed, may not be reimbursed if the observer makes an unreasonable decision or is not set up in proper time. For example, if you go into a known area where there's going to be clouds, likely you're not going to get it reimbursed. If you can't get your equipment set up in time and can't make the observation, you have no data, you're not going to get reimbursed. Initially, the observers will use their own funds, and reimbursement occurs after the event, and again, receipts are required and mandatory. Next slide. Observer consideration. Observers have to make their own prudent decision whether or not they're going to start travel prior to an event. If the weather probabilities for success are deemed low, travel should be avoided and aborted. Again, failure to exercise good judgment may result in no reimbursement. So in that event, the observer must agree to cover their own expenses. Next slide. Nick, not doing it? Okay. That was the previous slide. That was the previous slide. We've already had that one. Has anyone here been reimbursed for an event? Okay, Ted? Okay, the goals here for SWRI is to obtain the maximum number of video cords spread out over the entire asteroid and beyond, obviously. Transportation could be by car, train, or pre-authorized air. Lodging is covered. Meals are not covered due to potential accounting issues with the observer and SWRI. Shipping might be covered. I don't know what we'd be shipping. And this is a cap for pre-authorized expenses for each event. Next slide. This would be covered tomorrow. Okay. These remaining events is about, yeah, there's about like 6 or 7 more slides here. Okay, we'll just cut it off right here. Okay, so Ted, you've received funding before on this? Okay, how many, does anyone know how many events have been funded in the past? Just 2? Right. Okay.
When is the list of dates going to be finalized? Maybe by earlier
Yeah, the question is, when will the list be finalized so that when you purchase airline tickets, for example, you can get a better price? We have a couple of it we're going to talk about later tomorrow. You know, we know asteroid events, you know, a year in advance, but the ones they're going to choose, yeah, we don't know. We don't know which one to fund. That'd be a good email to send them and ask them. Yeah, one's in November. Yeah, and one's in December, December 28th. Question? Yes. Well, yeah, these are North America. Good question. The question was, we had an observation made in Canada. Is that out? The answer is, yeah, that's an issue we'll have to work out. When the path travels over Canada and the United States. Quick
on Southwest Airlines has the convenient feature that they don't charge change fees for your flights, and so I have found that if you buy your ticket for the event a year in advance or so, well, actually they sell tickets 6 months in advance at a maximum, but that money is good for a year. So what I've done is bought my tickets at the lowest price possible, and then if I don't go on the event, I have a year to use that $150 rather than spending $500 for a last-minute ticket, which I might be able to use, but it's a lot more money out of the pocket. Yeah, I know I go to Florida a lot to see a granddaughter, so buying the cheap ticket 6 months in advance on Southwest is good because there's no change fees, and you can change it as many times as you want. You just don't get your money back.
yeah, use it or lose it. Exactly. That's the SWRI, that's the Juno occultation, I believe. Yeah. Yeah, we need to get that resolved. Yeah, we need to get that resolved. We'll have to find out for sure on that. That's some good points there. Good points there. Okay, the actual events for the rest of this year and next year, we're going to hold off until tomorrow. So that concludes this part of the talk.